Welcome to DIYeasycrafts.com. Today we're going to take a look at the new tilt table bevel grinding jig or tool rest. Now the tilt table was originally made by my friend Jason Northgard. He made one for his own and one for my Oregon Blade Maker 2x72 grinder. Since then, both Jason and I have redesigned the tilt table, not only to be a little bit easier to adjust, but also to fit a variety of different 2x72 grinders. So if anybody has seen any of my videos for the past year or so, all of the knives that I've made, I've used this tilt table. And I've been able to improve the quality of my bevels substantially. In fact, probably other than buying a 2x72, this is the single most important tool that's made a huge difference in the quality of the knives I put out. You get basically everything that you need. The table itself, the support arm, and all of the hardware. The system does not come with the tooling arm. It's a standard 1.5" solid aluminum tooling arm. You can get them from Oregon Blade Maker. That tooling arm itself has a 1/2 inch and a 3/8 tapped hole in it. This system bolts directly into or onto that tooling arm. The system has the ability to move up and down, so you can position it where you want, left to right. The arm itself allows it to move forward and backward, and of course it adjusts for the angle of the bevel that you want to produce. Now with all of that flexibility, it really should move from machine to machine very nicely. So here it is mounted up to that OBM 1.5" tooling arm. It's got a lever for angle adjustment. Take a look at the back, right behind in that groove where I'm pointing. It comes as a flat plate. You have to remove a little bit material from the back edge of that groove just so that your grinding belts won't hit it, because you really want to get this table pretty close to the actual belt. I did mine just with a flap sanding wheel on an angle grinder. It took me about 5 minutes. But the deal is, you can, if you think you want to try this thing out, you buy it, you bolt it up to your machine, make sure that it fits before you start to grind the back of that table. Once you grind it, it's yours. Up until that point, if you don't like it or it doesn't mount up the way you want, you can return it for a complete refund minus the shipping cost. So it has 2 bolts on the back that are on a slide. You loosen those bolts, it gives you the ability to move the table from left to right. You center it on your belt. Tighten up those bolts and you're ready to go. Setting the angle, you have to get used to it a little bit, as with almost anything else. What I like to do is just use this scrap piece of wood, and I'll scribe the center line for the thickness of the material that I'm actually going to work on right onto that wood, and then I'll just grind to that line and see how thick the bevel ends up. If I want a thicker bevel, I'll put a little bit less of an angle on it. Once I'm satisfied with the angle that I've set the tilt table at, the process is to use a knife blank, hold it flat up against that table below where it's in contact with the belt, and then move it upward into contact and then across. So it's going to be flat, you move it upward. The whole time you're doing this, you're applying a little bit of pressure forward onto the table to prevent that knife from lifting up. You really want that knife blank to be completely flat. And then really what you're doing is you're watching that center line. You're watching the belt grind away material, and you want it to be a uniform grind. You want the distance from the edge of the blank to the center line to be the same, or the end of the grind mark to the center line to be the same. If you find that one particular spot is a little bit more material on it than you want, you can spend more time grinding that area. You can go back to one particular spot. You don't always have to go, from left to right. You could come back and just grind the tip if you needed to. I like to grind with a very rough grit to start, usually a 36 or so. You'll find that the first couple of blanks you do, you probably want to slow down the machine a little bit, really get the feel for it. But once you get comfortable grinding on this system, you can increase those RPMs, you can use a coarse grit, and you can really remove material very quickly. It's probably the closest knife bevel grinding jig or tool rest that you can get that is really the closest to freehand grinding. You really get a feel for the blade, and because you're watching that center line so carefully, you're really going to end up with nice, even bevels that kind of follow the contour of the blade itself. So that was flat bevels, or flat platen. I'm going to adjust this now for a 10-inch large wheel. So the 2 bolts that are on that Oregon Blade Maker 1.5-inch tooling arm, loosen those. I can position the whole tilt table up higher. I can then use the same piece of scrap wood, go through that whole process of getting the angle set the way I want it for the hollow grinding or hollow ground bevel that I'm trying to produce. And then actually grinding the bevel is just as simple as grinding a flat bevel. You place the blank flat against the table, you hold a little bit of pressure against the blank, and you pull it from left to right. Watching that center line, of course, is the main thing. I'm not showing it on this video, but I've also mounted a work light onto my grinder, and that really helps nicely, especially for when you have old eyes like I do. The plunge mark from side to side can just be lined up visually because this is edge up grinding. And there's a little bit of a learning curve to using the tilt table. It's going to take you a blank or two to get comfortable, and after that it really becomes second nature. Just another view, flat against the tilt table, and then move it upward until you're in contact, making sure you don't apply too much upward force. You don't want that blank to lift up on top of the wheel. You just really want the wheel and the belt to grind away the material on each pass. So for anybody that has difficulty producing good quality bevels, I highly recommend giving a tilt table a try. Whether you make your own or buy one from us, it's just a very neat design that really allows you to put out a good quality product. And that's really what the end result the desire is of most knife makers. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I ask that you please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Additional information on the tilt table can be found at DIYeasycrafts.com. By all means, check out our other knife making videos. We've got a variety of how-to knife making videos on DIYeasycrafts.com. And I'd like to invite you to join us on our Facebook group, Knives and Knife Making. You can actually join the group and submit some photos, show us some images of the knives that you produce. Anyway, thank you for watching the video.